All right. So, Lloyd, you and I both worked at NASA for a little bit. You're an accomplished cybersecurity professional, and you have established some habits that allow you to perform at the highest level of cybersecurity for one of the most, if not the most renowned government agency, NASA. So you're pretty well decorated, my man. And on top of this, you also run a podcast and are pretty skilled with social media as well as editing and photography. So you got a lot going for you. And what I'd love to understand is, like, how did this version of Lloyd come to be? Because where you are today, I believe, is a collection of habits you sort of built over time. Would you say so?
Yeah, most definitely. Habits, principles. Principles will determine your habits.
Mm-hmm.
So I would start there first.
Yeah.
This is the only thing that I kind of prepared for this interview. One thing that shapes me is just kind of religion, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to church, I guess Christian church, you hear honor thy mother and thy father. So I was just kind of like at a young age, like, oh, they say honor your mother and father and like live a long life. And I was just like, well, I want to live a long life. I want it to be prosperous. And they say if you just honor them, then everything else will fall in line. So from a young age, I'm like, my parents want me to do well in school, get a good job. And my dad always said each generation has to get better. So I was looking around my community and I was looking at other communities and I was like, well, I really like this community. I like this house. I get pretty much everything that I want. Like, how am I going to do better than this? So that put a lot of pressure on a little Lloyd, right? But that still just kind of was the mission. And that was the mission, really, from a young age.
Yeah.
What else did you ask me, Mr. KO?
So I think it's important to hear things like that, because when people see a LinkedIn profile, they see the success stories, they see when you won. But I think what's even more valuable than that, especially to someone who's looking to get to your level, is like, what about all the things that led up to that? Like, what about all the failures? What about all the adversity that you had to overcome to be able to demonstrate those successes?
Yeah.
And I think being able to share those and share your principles, but also share like the mindset that you come from, who is valuable to you, how they shaped your mind, like that's just as valuable, if not more valuable, than saying, okay, you worked at NASA in cybersecurity as a leader for more than half a decade. Like that in itself is impressive, but everything else behind that, that's what I think is even more valuable.
Right.
So what I'd love to understand is, like, what was it like for young Lloyd to come up in Houston?
Okay, and to kind of circle back to what you just said, I have to remind myself all the work that I put in to get here, and that's really important for everybody to do. Is just to like have benchmarks or just like journal like when they've reached a certain point, so that you can make sure like once you get what you want, you can also, I guess, like validate yourself or just like not discredit all the work. Because I did a lot of that. I discredit, like I'll tell anybody like, yeah, you could do what I do, but that could be true, it could not be true, but it was a lot of work. I kind of a lot of times like discredit all the work that I put in, just because like I guess with these habits, some things started to become easy to me, so I see them as easy, but it might not be the same for anyone else. Not saying that it is or isn't. I'm just saying, like, yeah, don't discredit the work that you do.
Yeah.
But yeah, how was it like growing up in Houston? So I'm actually from Pearland, which is like a suburb outside of Houston, and that's important to say because I'm from Pearland. It's a suburb. You got the big city, Houston, and then you have like some of the more rural places, like where we actually kept like our horses and like where my dad's from, so stuff like that. So I got to see like big city, I got to see more rural kind of country, and then I got to see like this nice suburb that's very diverse, as well as, you know, having a big diverse city literally down the street. So that shaped a lot of who I was, because once you start moving around, even going as far as like Louisiana, you start realizing how I guess like segregated it still is there. And you can really see how that affects the people there. And just like So yeah, I didn't have that. I was very like integrated in a very diverse society. Um, so yeah, that helped influence a lot of like how I view people.
Mm.
And then so like being from a suburb, very privileged, get to go to a lot of nice schools, and then having parents that were first generation college graduates also is a privilege in itself because they know what it takes to be kind of like successful in that
Yeah.
route or to go, they understand the process. So they put that on. They're able to like give me that method of how to kind of like reach greatness or to succeed or to accomplish goals, stuff like that. So, yeah, I could go on and on, but would you like to hear what you say you would like to hear like some of the maybe trials and tribulations?
I would love to hear what you felt like were maybe some points of adversity that you experienced in like childhood or education,
Yeah.
things that you felt like were kind of formative to you building your own identity.
Right. So, like I just mentioned a little earlier, like I had this grand mission of doing better than what my parents did. So that kept me, like in the books, as they say, to the point where like middle school, junior high, high school, I've been tutoring most mornings because I would say like I learn a little bit slower, or at least it takes me a little bit more time to understand things. Now, granted, I'm in like these, pre-AP, AP classes pretty much since like fifth grade.
You're in pre-AP classes?
So like, they start kind of segregating students at like, well, really elementary because you have gifted and talented. I wasn't in that in elementary, but in fifth grade, yeah, they basically have what they say like the regular classes and they have like the more advanced classes. So
Oh, okay. So you're talking about like honors sort of classes where
Yeah.
you're maybe like a half grade to one grade ahead. When you say
Yeah.
pre-AP, I'm thinking like advanced placement, which is essentially college.
it's just kind of like what you're saying, like maybe the grade above. So like I
Okay.
guess it starts maybe in what like seventh, eighth grade,
Yeah.
where you basically take like the next grade up math, and you have like a bit faster pace
I gotcha.
learning than because I'm still at just public school, so it's just like faster paced than maybe it's what some of the other kids are doing. So I say all that to say like I learned a little bit slower, but I still put in the work to make sure that I grasped all the concepts, which allowed me to do good on tests. It was a little frustrating because when you do learn a little bit slower, you have to spend way more time on work. You got to work in school and outside of school. And then somebody that was, my parents always pushed me to play sports and do a bunch of extracurriculars just outside of school. A lot of my day was booked up with studying and like whatever sport I was playing and whatever extracurricular I was trying to be in. So it was just like school 24/7, honestly.
And it wasn't your choice?
No, it was my choice. It was my choice. It was my choice, but my parents pushed me that direction.
I gotcha.
And like I said, just wanting to, honor them. And being a very strong-willed person, I was going to make sure that I succeeded at any cost.
Yeah.
So
You're also the eldest child, right?
I am the eldest child. So yeah, that
It's just like
That's
a
what I'm
little,
saying.
a little extra seasoning on that
there are
one.
so many things that you can get into that what makes a person. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been studying life paths. Do you know your life path?
Figuring it out every day, man.
No, man. Like, no. This is what I say. So everybody has like a universal life path. You add up your birthday, the numbers in your birthday. So if you're like January 1st, 1998, you would add up like 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 9. Let's say 1988, 9 plus 8. And then that'll get you like, let's just say 21. And then you add it up to a single digit. And that'll show you your life path. So my life path is a 3, which if you study what a 3 is, it's somebody that's going to be very creative, not really like structure. And, there's a bunch of other things. So like when you dive deep into what it means to be a 3, it's like, yeah, that's pretty much like what I am. So you got the 3, and then you got the day that you were born, and then you got the order of sibling that you are. You have your Myers-Briggs personality type. You have
Got your horoscope.
horoscope. Yeah, you've got all these things that like just kind of like I guess were studied to determine like patterns of people and what you might be. So yeah, like that all makes me up. I didn't know I was going to be going into that tangent, but yeah,
That's okay.
I do a lot of like self-study and self-discovery, and I, like he said, I have my own podcast, so I've always liked to listen to other people so that I could understand myself through them. So yeah.
So in your experience, taking on such a huge workload from elementary, middle school, high school, you were a football player in high school, right?
Yeah.
Were you only a football player or you did multiple sports?
I finished varsity football. That's the only sport that I was playing.
What position?
So I finished defensive end, and I go in a little bit on my podcast, Pie Tales. I think my episode with my friend Tyler about just my football experience. So y'all can go check that out. But yeah, I played football, but I also did like I said, various clubs. Pearland Youth Action Council was one of the big ones that I did. We met every Monday and like tried to make decisions for teens in the greater Pearland area.
So you're giving back.
Yeah, a lot of volunteer hours with that. Like I said, all the advanced classes. So the advanced classes and football, which made me like kind of get to know everybody too. So I know everybody on the whole spectrum of kind of like my grade.
Oh, so you're pretty well. Or are you talking about when you were in schools when you got to know everyone?
Yeah, because I'm in these pre-AP classes, AP classes, but I'm also with like the football players. Some of them are AP, some of them are just in school. Some of them are just doing school for football. So so I know pretty much everybody from kind of doing that. Yeah.
So how did you reconcile between some of the stereotypes of like a stereotypical jock and a stereotypical nerd? Because it seems like you might have been very deeply entrenched in both.
In both, yeah. No, but that's just kind of like who I am. I'm very kind of like well-rounded, or not. Yeah, I guess a well-rounded person. Like I am what it takes to be a good football player, and I am what it takes to be a good student. So everything in between.
It just works.
And everything in between. So. Yeah, man, but like I said, I stand on my principles. Like, they say like what defines a man is what you say, not what you say yes to, but what you say no to. So people know me and they know what I'm not going to do. They know what I am going to do. So
yeah, so you set boundaries. I have this conversation pretty often with my mentees. Like, you have to set boundaries, otherwise people will set them for you.
Most definitely.
And another piece of advice that I've been trying to implement, especially as of late, is it's really important for us to be clear and decisive with our communication whenever someone oversteps a boundary, and to call that out so that way that boundary remains firm. Because if you let somebody encroach upon your boundary and you're like, you know what, like they'll figure it out later, and then they do it again, and then you make that compromise again, and then they do it again, and before you know it, that boundary line that you set, they've already walked completely across. And are firmly entrenched in their own belief that wherever they are is their boundary. So whenever someone passes that boundary, I think it's important for people to say like, hey, I don't think this is working for me, whatever that is. I'd appreciate if X, Y, Z. And that's a crucial skill that I think a lot of people who are newer in career need to learn. And that's one that I've found is well executed in folks who are a little bit more seasoned in their career, who have seen what happens when people set other boundaries for you, because it can be really draining. So as a former varsity defensive end and very successful nerd who is on his way to NASA, what does it take to be someone who's successful athletically and in education at the same time?
What does it take? So I would say a lot of sacrifice. There was times where my friends stopped inviting me to do things or just to hang out because I would say, no, I have to like study.
Yeah.
And that was, it was no, I have to study throughout high school and college. I remember one of my tutors, he basically sat us down and was just like, yeah, y'all could go party, y'all could go chase girls, y'all could do all that, but you say that you want to graduate in these very hard engineering or get these very hard engineering degrees. So you're going to have to make your mind up, like, what you, like, really want to do.
Yeah.
So do you really want to do this? And this is what it takes. So, yeah, man, once you just be like, once you just make it up in your mind that you don't want to, or that you want to succeed in whatever you're doing, my parents taught me this at a young age, like, do your work first and then play. Work hard and then you'll be able to play.
Yeah.
Now, it's a lot of delayed gratification that comes in with that. You might not get to play for a couple weeks, but I I mean, I'm a living testimony. Like I get to play a lot more now than what I was doing when I was growing up. And I told my mom that too. I was just like, I'm excited for basically the life that I mold for myself. And, you know, I guess I would say I'm pretty successful now. So I'm living it. And it just required, like I said, like a lot of just delayed gratification.
Yeah. It's hard when you're a kid, man. All you want is gratification. And
Yeah.
like we weren't raised to be iPad kids, right? Like we didn't have instant dopamine on like this beautiful 12-inch OLED screen in front of us all the time.
No.
Like we man.
But I
Wasn't that easy.
I did have a TV and I had a game system most of the time. So that kind of
Okay, maybe you just had it better than I did.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I sat in front of, like, I couldn't play video games during the week. Now that was an adversity for me because I want to. I really do want to. My parents like no.
Yeah.
But you can play on the weekends. So yeah, I think sometimes I maybe like overdid it on the weekends because I was overcompensating for what I lacked out on the week.
Reasonable.
And then you get whatever you get out of that, what you.
Yeah.
Because you could easily be, I don't know, learning a skill. But
so how did you end up deciding to pursue your undergraduate education at LSU, and why the program of computer science?
Why computer science? One, because it was like the closest, or I guess it was in the college or the School of Engineering. I knew I wanted to do something in engineering just because, like, growing up, I would be in a good amount of like STEM programs.
Was it something that you naturally excelled at, and you're like, you know, that'd be a good fit for me?
Yeah, so we were going to talk about like my full career in like IT. My career in IT started when I was 4 years old at pre-K. I was in charge of basically making sure the other kids could play whatever game or do whatever they needed to do on the computers that were in our pre-K class, just because I kind of grasped the computer.
At 4?
Yeah, 4. Yeah, my mom likes to tell the story that I was turning on and off our like home computer at like 3, like the proper way, like not even just like going to probably start and shutting it off. She was just like, "How do you know how to do that?" And I mean, like you're saying, like we weren't iPad kids, but I did have I guess a computer at home. So like that's what I was at 3 introduced to. Now I do see the difference between me and, so my parents are criminal justice, but like when I was in computer science, like in my classes at LSU, like you could like tell like whose parents were in IT because they were way more, they had been coding for probably since elementary school.
Oh, they got it?
Yeah, so I didn't have that advantage on them. I would say they had that definitely advantage on me. But so yeah, how did I get in? So that was the start of my IT career at 4. And then I always kind of knew, I always liked being on the computer. So, and then even in school, they have you take like a little test to show what you're going to do or what field you might go to. And mine always kind of leaned towards IT. So I was just like, I'm okay with that. I mean, I know, you know, it's the future, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so, and I knew I had a general passion.
Okay, so it was a natural fit for you. Tell me about your experience at LSU and, you know, surviving probably one of the, if not the most difficult degree program there is out there.
Yeah. My freshman year, I didn't think I was going to make it through that computer science program at all. Like, I would say I did everything right as far as like going to class and even get like finding the necessary help that I needed in those computer science courses. I would have my peers like sit down and like walk me through programs. So yeah, I mean that was a necessary thing for me to do because, like I said, a lot of them had way more experience in it than I did.
So you were intentional in your growth.
Of course. Yeah, man. I made sure like I had the books that I needed to do. Once I found like this programming, just kind of like one of those kind of like more like easy classes that you could do. Word 1 credit, you're going to pass. The professor's like this old guy who's been programming since programming existed, and he just got a passion for it. So I made sure I was in there just getting that exposure.
I see.
All the time. Like I said, I went to, so my best story of being in college and being in class was, I can't remember what the class was called, but it was like junior year. So I'm deep in this computer science degree at this point. Another thing I was intentional about, like talking in class, participating. Now I'm one of, I don't know, maybe like 8 black kids in like a 60 student class.
Wow.
when I answered the question, I was like, hey, like I'm Lloyd. This is the answer. Our professor, he was, I don't know what he was. He was like foreign, but literally every other black person in that class was Lloyd after that. After I answered the question, because just like you don't know, you don't know. So like literally, it was a joke in class. Like if any other black kids answered the question, he'd be like, "Oh, good answer, Lloyd."
Wait, are you serious?
I'm not. I'm not lying.
He would accidentally refer to everybody.
Every other black person, because I would answer a lot of I would try to answer a lot of questions. Like one of the only black.
And
people.
that Lloyd Brand's too
yeah,
strong.
it was
man.
crazy. Yeah, okay, yeah. But I bring up that class,
Yeah.
so I would participate, and I would go to the supplemental instructions. I had 2 of these very hard classes this semester. Mm-hmm. We would have Tuesday the class, and then the supplemental instruction for the class on Thursday on the Tuesday. Mm-hmm. On Thursday, I would have another class, and then the supplemental instruction for the Tuesday class. Or your Tuesday is your hour and a half class. I would have to do an hour and a half, through the day, whatever classes I had that day, and then go to the supplemental instruction. That's a long day of being in class and sitting down and listening to people. But I had to do it because we would all listen to the professor, not know what he was talking about, go to the supplemental instruction, and then the little TA person would teach us what we need to know.
Yep, office hours are crucial.
Exactly. So I did that the whole semester. We get to like one of the, maybe let's just call it the midterm. The supplemental instruction was pretty much what was on the test. So I'm looking at the test. I'm like, I know that one. I know that one. I know that one. I might know that one. Probably don't know that one. Like maybe 5 questions, right? But it's all proofs. So the ones I know. So I'm writing it down. The ones that I don't know, it's just whatever. Mm-hmm. We get the test back. He puts it in front of me, and it's a 50-something.
Out of 100?
Out of 100. And I'm like, no, that's not what we're doing, because I went to the supplemental instruction. I knew how to do that. So the initiative of Lloyd, I took this test to that professor's office hours, and I go through my logic, my proof, and I show him, and he's looking at it, he's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, you have some merit there. You have some merit. I'll give you your points back for that one. Okay, yeah, I'll give you your points back for that one too. That's really good. That 50-something went to a 71. That was probably the difference of me passing that class. So like, I mean, I hope that was just the best story that I could tell y'all to show like the dedication, the commitment, and me seeing things through and making sure that like I was not treated any kind of way while being in college. Yeah. Like I would say pretty much everything that was necessary to get through that degree plan, because it was very hard. But I had that same energy for that I'd had in that scenario with every class.
Yeah, it's universally, actually, I don't want to say universally. It's pretty popularly known that computer science is one of the most rigorous, one of the most challenging programs, because there's mathematics, there's the theory behind it, there's likely a bunch of like statistics, as well as advanced algebra courses, toss coding on top of that, and you have to balance all that with your GE stuff. Like, it's not easy, and especially if you don't have a background or parents who have like a mathematics background who had you coding since you were an infant. Exactly. So for you to be able to cover all that ground within 4 years, it's really impressive. Thank you. So there wasn't anybody in your family that had like a mathematics background that was helping you through this? Like, were you single-handedly kind of just picking yourself up by the bootstraps?
I was thinking about this the other day. I don't even think I have anybody else in my family on both sides that's in tech. Like, I don't even really, like, they might know how to do certain things, maybe with audio, but like,
yeah, Python, they don't know that.
No, I don't think so.
What is that?
Maybe in this next generation, like maybe some of my cousins, or like my brother's just starting to learn Python, but like, so I had to lean on a lot of my peers. Yeah.
So I think the lesson there is like, it doesn't matter where you came from. If you want something badly enough, you will find the resources, you will find the support, and you need to be able to lean on other people and other knowledge sources, because nobody knows it all. No. And it's impossible to know it all. So you're picking up these skills, and I'm curious to hear, like, what were some of the lessons that you took away from your time in sports that helped you succeed in college?
Lessons in sports. Man, it's been a while since I just played sports. But
I remember we went to the gym together back when I used to live here in Houston. Yeah. And we were hitting the bench, and like you were just cranking out sets. Plus your arms are way longer than mine. And then you hop off, and I'm struggling, and you just like busted out 12 reps when I put up 5. And I'm like, are you good? And you go, my coach would always tell me, speed and violence.
Speed and violence. Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. If you say speed and violence around some of the guys that I play defense with, they probably would light up just like how I lit up right there. Because, it's just taking that intensity into like everything you do to win. And I mean, I don't want to say dominate, but, dominate life. Yeah. Lessons on sports, though. I think the best thing that contributed to my life was just like, is always a test to myself. Like I played football, but I had I ain't gonna lie, I had a hate-love relationship with it sometimes. But the conditioning I always loved. The proving to myself that I was able to like be just like physically fit, and then football, make a great tackle, or even just like drills in practice, be able to push a guy that should be able to push me back, like be able to like beat him in the drill was always just like a very satisfying feeling. But yeah, when I was in college, when I would get really stressed out, I actually started running in college. I did a lot of weightlifting in high school. I was very not wanting to run just because I wasn't, I guess, the fastest, but I really started to run in college. So my goal was to bring my mile time down. So I would get really stressed out before a test and just kind of like maybe get a little down, but then I was like, you know what, let me go work out. So I would go run a mile real hard, real strong, and finish it in like a good time. And I'd be like, like no matter what happens on this test or whatever tomorrow, like I proved to myself that like I'm gonna win regardless. So that I would literally have to do that, like just kind of like, and working out is always going to be good for you, your mind and clarity and getting the oxygen and being able to sleep and all that other stuff. So yeah, I mean, sports was just kind of like, although it was a lot of work too, it was just kind of like another confirmation that I could do what I wanted to do if I put the work in, Yeah.
Advice I try to give pretty often, especially to people who don't necessarily feel like they have the confidence yet, is if you want to build confidence, you just got to say what you're going to do and do what you said you'd do. And then do that over and over and over and over again. So that way you can do what you had accomplished, which is prove to yourself that you do what you say you're going to do. And once you have that internal confidence, it does something to your mind, I feel. And it changes you. It changes how you perceive challenges. It changes your approach to life, I feel. Because there's a completely different energy from saying, you know what, I don't know if I can do that. Maybe I'll try it another time. And saying, I can do anything I set my mind to.
Yeah.
Like those two people are going to have vastly different life trajectories. And I think the person who is the latter is going to end up being able to achieve most things that they set their mind to. So do you believe in like manifestation or dream boarding or anything like that?
100%. I want us to say, I mean, you talked about it at the beginning of this podcast, like about your habits and what you just described as basically having good habits and discipline. And they say, I heard this quote that not recently, like how you do anything is how you do everything. So it's just kind of like the energy that I take to one thing is probably going to be the energy that I take to something else. And if I'm able to complete this task with this energy and I take it to the next task, I know I'm going to succeed. Like and it's a method to it that I'm taking from this thing to this thing.
Yeah.
Man, I was trying to hold with.
No,
question for me.
No, all good. I actually love that quote. That like lit me up in the same way that like speed and violence lit you up when I heard that. So there was, I forgot where I heard this from. There was a story where there was this dad and this young boy. And the young boy is being pushed really, really hard by the father. And the father is telling him, like, no, don't do it that way, do this. Like, okay, don't do it that way, do this. And the boy is just miserable. He's like, oh, why do I have to do all these stupid little things? Like, why do I have to put my fork here? Why do I have to tidy up my shoes when, I'm in the house? Like, why do I have to put my towel a certain way when I'm done showering? Like, why does any of this matter? And he's like breaking down in front of his father. He's fighting back, and his father sits him down. He's just like, son, all these details matter.
They do.
These details are everything because you are these details. And I think that alludes to what you just said. How you do one thing is how you do everything. Attention to detail here is attention to detail everywhere.
Yeah, man. That's
Cook, bro. Well, I'd love to hear from your perspective, Lloyd. Like, looking back on your college career at LSU, completing a really difficult degree in computer science, like, what were some of the keys to the success, but also just surviving one of the most difficult degree programs there is?
some of the keys to success. Yeah, I mean, everything I've just talked about, just like that delayed gratification, setting up good habits, doing things, the discipline of it all, doing like hard things, no matter how I felt about it. Sure, there were some days I walked out of my dorm, got down the street a little bit, going to class, and then I just turned around and went back to my room. I said, I can't do it. I actually can't do it today. I remember my dad called me. He was like, how you doing? I said, man, I'm actually not good. Like, I just told him, I had to go back to my room. But, you know, it was way more days that I won than days like that, you know? So, and even that's a win, because you got to listen to yourself. You got to know when it's time to pull it back, or when you just can't do certain things, so you can recharge and, you know, hit it again, either the next day or in the next hour or whatever.
So how do you become cognizant of when you're approaching burnout? Because I agree. I think it's important for people to understand, like, yo, I'm pretty close to my limits.
Yeah.
But when is it, oh, I'm pushing myself beyond my limits? And when is it straight irresponsible? Like, how do you know the difference?
Yeah, man. So we talked about boundaries earlier. I had my boundary when I was younger, as far as like when I was close to my limit, and when I would keep going was way, I guess, thinner. I'm not too sure exactly how to say that, but like, I mean, for example, like one of my finals weeks, I pulled like 3 all-nighters that week, and I'm a person that, like, throughout the semester I might pull multiple all-nighters, do an all-nighter and have to go straight to class. So yeah, the boundary was real loose when I was younger, because I had way less of a sleep schedule. And that's just where I was at that point. But I think even then, I would hit, like, I would say, like, lows, to where it's just like, I know, like, sure, I could keep going, but this is not going to be sustainable. I'm really going to start spiraling unless I do something about this. And I think it's just knowing yourself.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. You, like I said, now it's different. I don't have that urgency like I did then. And I definitely am in a place where I can take life just a little bit more slowly, and not have to push myself like I did. But
So it sounds like there's chapters to your life, right?
most definitely. Tears. I would just record like a little voice journal saying that, like, I'm actually in a new tier in life, and it's very uncomfortable. But it's very uncomfortable, but it's refreshing, and it's changed. It's natural to be in. I wish I had like a clear. Everybody. I mean, when your performance, or when you just, I guess your performance starts to decline, you got to look in the mirror and be like, okay, what do I need to do to get back up? Because in life, like, the growth should be exponential. So as soon as it starts to teeter or slow down, you should reevaluate and make sure you don't, because it can clearly go from up to down. I mean, we see that in markets, in cycles in life. Like, you can be up one day and then down, but you have to know what both of those look like.
Yeah.
This is the question that you asked me earlier, if I believe in manifesting and journaling and stuff. That would really help you understand where you're at in the moment. Like, I did a lot of journaling in college. I have like one book that whenever I feel it, I'll journal. And then I have like a daily planner that I would also be like, okay, I feel okay today, or I don't feel okay this day. But I'm big on manifesting and being able to, I would say now, I only have like 2 or 3 tasks in a day that I that I need to complete, I guess you could say.
Like top priority.
Top priority, yeah.
Gotcha.
And even if I can't get to all that in a day now, I just kind of like, I'll push it back to the next day. But just, I'm big on writing things down and being realistic with goals and expectations.
So, looking back on these pretty rigorous years of your life, like, let's just say at a minimum, it was 8 years of really tough high school and really tough college.
It was a long time.
Like, that was absolutely, like, Like, would you say that was one of the most hardworking and difficult chapters of your life?
Uh, like I said, I would take it way back to middle school. Like I said, like things didn't come super duper easy for me, so I had to put in a lot of work at all times, and I had a very high expectation of myself.
Yeah.
And I expect like a lot from myself. So I would say like, yeah, most most of life being young was challenging. And then even, I mean, you wanted to transition kind of into getting my career. Even that first year of being in my career was rough too, because I still had that kind of like a panic, just kind of sense of urgency carry over from college into the career. And then, but that was a different tier in my life that I kind of just had to take a step back and reevaluate and set goals for what I realistically wanted to do. Because you have pressures from like your coworker.
Yeah.
Some coworkers being like, you should be doing it, especially if they're older. They're like, you should be doing this, you should be doing this, you need to be doing this. Like, some will even check you week to week, be like, hey, did you do that thing? And like them having no regard for my life outside of work or what I'm going through. So
yeah, it could be a blessing to have close colleagues that you can actually call your friends. I think what I noticed when I was a little bit earlier in career, that I had quite a few people that I could say were like genuinely my friends that I worked with. And I sort of took that for granted the further I got into my career. At least my experience has been, the further you get into your career, the more senior you become, the more influence you have, the more you find people that tend to play the game, that are playing the influence game, that are playing the, like, frankly, who can I appeal to so that way I can earn my next promotion or make a bigger bag? And less so people who are coming into work who are doing it maybe for the love of it or the actual genuine interest of like making friends. Also, I think another subcomponent of that is when you're earlier in career, you probably don't have a ton of responsibilities like a mortgage or a marriage or multiple kids. Whereas the further you get into your career and you're working with people who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s even, the likelihood of them having a mortgage and a life partner, multiple kids, just becomes higher and higher and higher. So those priorities also do change. So I think that was a learning lesson, even just for me right now. So what was your career transition out of LSU? Like, what did that look like?
Oh man. So just to be like transparent and a little vulnerable, like when I graduated college, I thought I was gonna get a job right after graduating, but the whole interview process, like literally it was a whole thing with the company where they had to cease hiring. So it's just like, oh man, like I did what was necessary to get that job, but then like something that was out of my control happened, and it just didn't work out for me that way. I mean, if it had worked out for me that way, I mean, I wouldn't be in cybersecurity, like, or at least I wouldn't have, jumped into cybersecurity then.
What did that feel like?
It was pretty. It was defeating. Like I said, being full transparent, panic attacks. Like, because I ended up, graduating college after putting in all that work. I say from like 10 years old. And then what I thought was like nothing to like show for it. So that messed me up a little bit. Like, because I was just like, okay, what do I do now? And I mean, naturally, keep going. So even the midst of panic is like I got a little job IT job at U of H. I was applying to the jobs that I was interested in. And looking back, it was only a 3-month period that I didn't have a job right out of college, but it felt like forever. It always feels like forever when you're in it because it's indefinite, right? You don't know when you're gonna reach that next point,
right?
But yeah, man. I knew I wanted to go to either virtual reality, augmented reality, XR, or cybersecurity. I just knew that, like, based off of the classes and just some of the passion projects that I was doing my senior year of college. So cybersecurity picked me up first. Very grateful for that. But like I said, I took a lot of that panic energy into just kind of like the first day of my job and first week and first month, just like really anxious because like working where I work, you don't just jump into work. You have to. There's actually like a period where you kind of have to wait, like a month. So it's just like, oh, am I going to be able to, like, the nerves is just like, am I going to be able to like actually do this job and perform? Because I just came from, like you said, like one of the hardest majors in college. And it's just like I knew what it took to to do well there, and then it's just like still I'm like doubting myself. I'm like, I don't know if I'm good enough, right?
Yeah.
And college was way harder than my job now. My job is challenging. It's fun. It's entertaining. But like everything I was in college is way harder.
Why is that?
Why? Because programming. I did way more programming then.
Yeah.
And then like I also had a way smaller toolbox when I was in college because I was just learning all these concepts for the first time, right? So then when it was time to do my job, I mean, I had a good solid year of IT experience just working at LSU, which actually helped me a great bit when I started working my current job. And yeah, my toolbox just expanded. So
you were working in IT while balancing a really rigorous degree program?
Doug.
How did you, huh?
Yeah. My last semester, my last semester of college, I had 21 hours of school and was working like, I guess you could say, yeah, part-time IT job. Yeah, it was a lot. That's why college was harder.
So you end up wrapping up school. You've got a little bit of experience in IT. What does the transition look like into a role in cybersecurity?
So I had a little bit of cybersecurity experience just from my coursework. Obviously, it wasn't enough. I didn't have any cybersecurity certs at that time. So I start that first month, and I'm just like, what do I need to do to progress here? And it looked like getting, I guess, like continuing school or continuing education, which was like certs and stuff like that. And that was really overwhelming for me. I was just like, man, I'm burnt out. I'm burnt out with all this learning, or all the learning that I just completed.
Yeah.
And you're telling me like to maintain, I'm gonna have to like go back to school essentially. I'm like, oh my god.
I thought I was done.
I'm like, oh no, but like I did my first SANS course. I guess like a few months later. Yeah, but like even when doing that, like I just learned. I was very intentional when I got my job. I set up like one-on-ones with my manager when I first started. So every Friday we would meet, and obviously he was doing stuff that was like a higher tier than what I was doing. So
is this at NASA?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's rewind a little bit. What does the interview process look like for you for you applying to a security analyst position at NASA?
What does the interview process look like? So it's really funny. I sent them like, I would say kind of like a janky resume, in my opinion, because they were like, yeah, it says on this resume you this, and that. I was like, does it? Like, which resume did y'all get? So I'm just grateful that they even got my resume. So yeah, I mean, they asked me networking questions, but then I tried my best to control that interview. I was just like, well, when I was in this class, I did this relevant coursework and I learned this from it, and then at the end of the interview, I had like questions for them, like, who has your SSP? Like, what do y'all do? Like, tell me about like, so like I just tried to like demonstrate that I had some knowledge of cybersecurity outside of the, obviously the interview questions that they had for me.
Yeah. Where did you learn interview preparation? Because not everybody knows that a quick way that you can separate yourself in the interview process is to have questions ready at the end of it. Like defining what does success look like.
I probably learned it at some point in college. Like I said, I was very intentional. I mean, everything from financial management to probably career like stuff. And I was interviewing while I was in college. So, you watch YouTube videos. But I remember the first 48 hours up until my interview, I was studying. Just making flashcards, like YouTubing what to expect from a entry level cybersecurity position.
So you were intentional about the preparation process. You were intentional about how ready you were in coming into the interview, and you set yourself up for success.
Most definitely.
I try and say as often as I can that like I'm a really lucky guy, but I also feel like there's a component of luck where luck is when opportunity meets the amount of hard work you put in. And to this point, you were at a solid decade of just straight putting in the grind set. So what does it feel like to receive a job offer from NASA as a cybersecurity professional?
I didn't feel much except just grateful that I had a job, honestly. Like I didn't, it's hard to express, like I'm a pretty like, although you hear me talk about doing all these like I guess like great things or just like accomplishing all these things. Like I just want to be okay at the end of the day. So once I got that job, I was just like, okay, like there's a chance that I'll be okay. Like now I'm sure NASA's a really big name. Like you kind of don't even believe it. I mean, you got to think of like I'm 22, just got out of college doing the hardest stuff that I've ever had to do in my life. And now I'm just getting the job in cyber, a career that I'm still just kind of like in the dark about. And then at NASA. So these are very intent, like grandiose like concepts. Like this is a grandiose, larger than life kind of concept that I just got after being in a good 3 months of just pure panic. So I'm just like, okay,
whatever. You could breathe finally.
I didn't know if I could breathe. So
you're so
I'm still just holding my breath. Yeah, man.
Is this real?
No, for real. So like, I mean, I know it sounds good to like everyone else, but in that moment, I was just like, I got a job. Okay, let's go work. I mean, I know what comes with work, so let's go see if I can do this. But then as I started to settle in,
what does it feel like to finally settle in as a cybersecurity professional at NASA?
Well, cybersecurity is changing every day, or there's so much that I have to learn. I think now I'm understanding that I'm in one industry and other industries experience or just have a different maybe perspective on cyber based off of, the threats and challenges that they have to deal with. So for me, I mean, I'm in government and I guess everything in my network or environment was pretty much like a setup. I don't have to build anything from scratch. Like I just hear stories of people having to like really get in the weeds of the network, and I mean I'm sure consultants have to deal with a lot that I still don't have like that experience. So I came in, the infrastructure is just kind of set up, right?
Yeah.
So I just come in and it's just like, this is what we're doing, do this, and then find where you fit in. So
it's different to work in security engineering where you're actually architecting solutions and building out the backbone of the telemetry flow and ingress egress points between different enforcement points in a network. It's different to like that whole field is a subset of cybersecurity.
Right.
But an extension of that is what do you do with all that data? And ideally, you have a group of people who analyze all that data. That's monitoring, detection, alerts, incident response, detection engineering. So all that data is only really as valuable as the skill that you have in analyzing it, right? So you are that skill that analyzes, millions of dollars worth of data, basically. And it's your intention to stop the agency from having its IP stolen or for any significant damage to be applied to NASA from like a cybersecurity and network level. So curious to hear, what does your first year as a cybersecurity analyst at NASA feel like?
So you just gave a great like summary, a general overview of like, what it means, I guess, to be in my position. So without going into just great detail, the first year was getting acclimated with my coworkers, getting acclimated with the team, right? That's a very like crucial part of it all because everyone on the team has different experiences, whether it be in cyber or just working for, the SOC. So I'm pulling and picking everyone's brain, trying to see what they know, what they don't know, and just kind of like soaking up all this like game, so to speak. That's a lot of my first year, and then like I said, I did the GSEC SANS course, and then I ended up getting the SEC Plus CompTIA. So man, so it's just like. So a lot of figuring out like what podcasts I should be listening to, what YouTube channels. I had to learn a lot. Like I had to learn networking, had to learn EDR, I had to learn all these different things.
It's a lot.
Yeah, no, it is a lot, and it's very while also just doing whatever my role is at that time because it might not be all those things. It might just be this. So I had to learn just that, and I had to learn all these other things to prepare me for the next step, tier, career path, whatever.
So how many years is it until you start feeling like you've got a pretty good feel of being a security analyst?
Yeah. So I'm 5 years in now, and I feel pretty good. I would say, so a big thing with me was like being able to speak cyber. So like, although I could do my job at some point, one point, maybe like 2 years in,
Yeah.
can I really speak cyber? So like, I'm trying to figure out maybe the first time I was able to, probably 3 years in,
Mm-hmm.
three to 4 years
Yeah.
of just really submerging myself in the culture and talking to other people and finally starting to understand how, the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
Why you have to monitor all these different things, like why you have to know networking.
Why do you have 6 screens?
Why you have to know your user and understand, your industry and all that other stuff, so that you can do what you need to do.
So what advice would you give to a new security analyst in how you can be as effective as an analyst as possible?
I would say it's everything that you do outside of like your job, like whether that's doing like, and it's, I mean, first of all understand where you want to go, like what path. Do you want to do blue team? Do you want to do red team? Do you want to do management?
Mm-hmm.
If we're talking about just like if we're just talking about
Dang.
if we're just talking about like if somebody's going on like my path of just kind of like you say being an analyst, and somebody that sees a large, I guess, overview of things.
Mm-hmm.
First thing I would say is make sure you understand what's going on the global scale. Make sure you're keeping up with current events. I think that's very slept on. I don't know how many people talk about that. Like, just make sure you understand what's going on now in the world and in your industry, everything. You have to be very aware.
Are you talking about from like a geopolitical level or just from a cybersecurity industry level?
Geopolitical.
Okay. So know what's going on in the world, at least from like a high level. Don't be someone who's under a rock.
No, because I mean, we have different threat actors. I mean, and depending on what industry you're in, you're gonna either have to deal with hacktivists, nation states, your insider threats.
Yeah.
So yeah, you I mean, something like we're coming up on like a holiday season, so you have to understand how your users are gonna be, understand their patterns.
Yeah. When the holidays come around, users are just a little click happy.
Oh yeah.
They tend to not be as attentive to security protocol, especially during the weekends or on a Friday or a Monday.
Especially a Friday, yeah.
Especially a Friday.
Or just you might get way more to do because people are just pushing things off to other people to look at, not
that
really taking the time to look at it for themselves and make that educated judgment.
So you've been a cybersecurity analyst at NASA, and now you're a cybersecurity analyst lead at NASA. You've been doing this for about 5 years. What's some advice that you would give to someone who is looking to make the most out of their cybersecurity analyst career?
Like I said, everything that you're doing outside of your job, hack the box. Make sure you're studying. Just whatever tool you use, dive deep in that tool. Know the ins and outs. Make sure you're building your network. Make sure you're talking to people that are on different teams. That's very important. You don't put yourself in a bubble.
Yeah.
Branch out. Understand what the other teams might be doing. How y'all are all supporting the mission. Get those certs. Keep studying. Don't stop studying. Go back to school. Do whatever is realistic to you. Like, because you like you said, as we progress in life, we're gonna have different obligations that come up out. So you have to have a good work-life balance so that you can be the best you while you're working, while you're on the clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope that's good advice.
No, that is great advice. Yeah. I think, kind of touching on what we were mentioning earlier, there are different chapters in your life, and there are chapters where you're going to focus more on education. You're going to focus more on, your profession. Other times you need to take a back seat and really focus on your family and hold down what's going on at home. There was this really great lesson or quote that one of my podcast guests left with me. Her name is Mindy Schluter. She's a really accomplished cybersecurity professional. Mm-hmm. She said that life is constantly juggling balls. There are some balls that are made of rubber, and you could drop those and they'll bounce back and it won't be too crazy. Mm-hmm. An example of one of those would be like work. Even though it may not feel like it, Work is actually a rubber ball. You can drop that every now and then. Some balls are made of glass. You never want to drop those because they will shatter. And picking those back up and fixing those isn't going to be as easy. An example of a glass ball is going to be your family. So when I heard that, I feel it put a lot of things in perspective for me. And what I'm hearing from your experience and sort of the mindset that you've cultivated, it sounds like family was huge in your ability to, like, one, cultivate your own identity, but also two, cultivate like this workhorse ethic that you had for a long time, that you sustained for over a decade. And that's something not a lot of people can do. You've also mentioned how, you know, having these leading examples in your life was able to set you up for a life that you are living at this point, where you can take your foot off the brake and actually enjoy a slower pace. And that's something you have to earn. Like your goals and your dream life, this isn't something that happens overnight. You're going to need to put in that work. That's just a natural part of the journey. What's also important is that you have to put in this work so that way you understand the body of work that's required to achieve these dreams. Sort of like what you were mentioning at the beginning, both your parents were college graduates, and they promoted a college education and also understood what it took to succeed at this level. So they had put in that grind.
Yep.
And I don't get the idea that either you or your siblings will ever or have ever been people that would take hard work for granted.
No, not at all. There's one other thing. Like I was very blessed and privileged to have like those parents to like influence me, but like I also made sure that I kept somebody that I could kind of look up to. So get you a mentor, and your first mentor might not be your last mentor. Make sure that even your mentors or the people that you look up to understand your boundaries and align with your, I guess, principles as well. That's just a little tidbit I wanted to.
No, that's huge.
throw out there.
Yeah, I feel there's only one shortcut through life, and that's mentors, because they can consolidate years of mistakes and knowledge down to just the right thing to tell you at just the right time. And that knowledge is so powerful because, I mean, one sentence can change a life. And I've had multiple mentors who have dropped bars on me that have like echoed in my head through time. And I feel like they've kind of been like angels and demons on my shoulder, so to speak. Like I'll be navigating a situation and I'll hear two perspectives from two different mentors and realize like, okay, I can take one avenue or the other, and I would have learned from the years of mistakes and that compounding interest of knowledge that both of them provided to me. Something quickly that I want to touch on when it comes to finding mentors. I agree, finding mentors has probably been one of the most critical aspects of me being able to make the growth in my career that I've been able to in such a short amount of time. I want people to know that there's a lot of mentors out there who want to continue mentoring and who find a lot of fulfillment in raising up the next generation. Like I personally find a lot of fulfillment in doing that. And I'm getting to a place where I'm not the one really asking for help as often as I'm being asked for help. But one thing that will help you stand out in a candidate pool, because these mentors are typically very busy and like successful people, is like show that you put in the work ethic. Don't be someone that asks for time, and also demonstrate value. If there's any way that you can make something easier for them or take a little bit off their plate, like demonstrate value, lead with value, and there's a better likelihood that that value is going to be reciprocated. What I'd love to hear from you, Lloyd, is like as a cybersecurity analyst who's been working at NASA for over half a decade, what's some of the greatest pieces of professional advice that you've ever heard, and how did it impact your life?
Greatest piece of professional advice. I think that one that I just recently heard at a conference was make sure you're talking to everyone, or make sure you building out that big network, so people that are outside of your team, because they're going to have some insight into some other things, so into things that you're not able to see, or they might be able to help you, or they might even have some experience doing what you're doing. Things flow more smoothly when everybody kind of sees a little bit of the big picture, I think. I would say, I mean, you just bringing up the mentor thing, I mean, I can't stress that enough. Like, you've got to have someone that you can kind of look up to that's doing a little bit of what you want to do, so that you kind of know what that looks like. I mean, some of the people that influence me the most are the people that eat, sleep, breathe cyber. I mean, some people that we've worked with, like they just they really just inspire me and just motivate me to I guess adopt some of the habits that they do. That's, I mean, it's why I brought up the point of just like understanding what's going on a global scale, political scale, just like, because I get to see some of our like or some threat intel people have like all this knowledge of what's going on, and it serves the team. Like, they're a great asset to the team because they can really, like I said, put that big picture together. This is why we have to focus on this threat or this group we need to really be paying attention to because of the industry or the organization that we are.
Yeah.
And that's going to, like I said, it's going to change it might change depending on what industry. So,
yeah, we've been blessed to work with some really, really capable and skilled individuals who just kept like pushing the outer boundaries of their knowledge and their craft. It was really inspirational to have worked in the NASA Security Operations Center. I think there's a ton of amazing talent that comes in and also leaves NASA that goes on to do great things at some of the greatest companies there are in cybersecurity, like CrowdStrike, for example. Very grateful to have been amongst like rarefied air, and we all got to come up together like early in career, which is pretty sweet.
that was nice for us, yeah.
So now that you're at this point, like what is the next evolution that you see for Lloyd in cybersecurity?
One thing I never did in my life was like I didn't know that I would be in cybersecurity, but I knew that I was going to be in tech. So I always kind of know like a general direction of where I want to go and what it takes to kind of get there. So my options are always open. I'm constantly meeting new people, constantly gaining new skills that allow me to like, I guess like get in different doors. So I think like with me right now, I'm big into, like you say, family, big into my life. Right now I'm taking care of myself while also just kind of like nurturing the career Lloyd and making sure like he's not slacking. Just going to continue to do what I've been doing, man. And we're going to see what happens. I can't give you anything definite, but I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like with that mindset, like you found a level of a happier version of you. And it's nice to see that.
Yeah, most definitely.
Love to see it. All right, Lloyd. Well, we have covered a lot. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your journey, some adversity that you've been through. Because you don't just become a lead cybersecurity analyst, like leading shifts, for having no work ethic, for just deciding to do this one day. Like, this was a decade plus of really, really hard, grueling work that you put in to be able to find yourself in like this rarefied air and also be considered a leader amongst this rarefied air. So thank you for sharing your story. I'm sure a lot of people will benefit from understanding like your own personal journey. What I'd like to close out with is we have a tradition on KO's Corner podcast where we close out every episode with a dap.
The DAP. Like
a dap, yeah.
Like that.
Yep. You down? Oh, no. It has to make the clap. Not bad.